Okay, so picture this. You've closed the biggest deal of your life. It's $200 a month for final expense coverage on Mrs. Jones. You wrote that bad boy up today, and you're setting up the draft on the 3rd of next month. But lo and behold, the 3rd falls on a Saturday, and we don't actually get to charge them till Monday, and our client forgets about the draft, and we end up losing the deal. Is there not a more painful circumstance of happening in this business as that? Well, I'm here to tell you the solution in order to avoid that. My name is David Duford, where I recruit, and train insurance agents nationally to sell final expense, Medicare, and annuities. And today's talk specifically is for y'all final expense agents and soon-to-be final expense agents on why you must use a style of billing that will prevent this harrowing experience from ever happening again or just dramatically reducing it. It is what we call Social Security deposit billing. So what I've just described a moment ago is how a typical billing cycle works. What I'm going to describe to you is the ideal arrangement because, listen very closely, this may break or make you as a final expense agent. Collecting the money and being the first in line to grab that cash is probably the most important thing when it comes to dealing with our final expense prospects and getting them clients that stay on the books. Let me describe to you exactly what this whole Social Security deposit billing means. So most of the time, most companies historically have set up drafts based off of a numerical date. So we like to and used to teach early back in the day in 2011 and 12, to draft the premiums of your clients based around the date, the specific numerical date they received their Social Security or retirement check. And it makes sense most of the time. If the client gets paid on the 3rd and we have our draft to set up on the 3rd, then we're right in line to grab that money before they can pull it all out and forget the bill. But here's the problem. What happens if one of these circumstances I'm about to describe happens? What happens if the 3rd falls on a Saturday or Sunday? What happens if the 3rd of the month, or any of the draft dates, doesn't matter, 3rd specifically, there's other ones too, falls on a holiday? What if the combination of all that happens and it pushes out the actual deposit date? What can you actually do to make this or fix this? So this is where the problem started happening. Clients would run down to the bank account, to their ATM, draw out their money, go party hard over the weekend on smoke and booze, and then roll up on Monday. Here we are trying to take their money, and it's not there, and we end up losing deals. And this was a chronic problem that we had because dealing with the final expense population, they tend to forget some of their automated billing. And a lot of them are not used to having a bank account. They kind of were cash and carry types, if you will. And so they forget very often. And therein lies the beauty of this Social Security deposit billing. Now, instead of having a draft come out on a numerical date, we assign that draft to an actual deposit date that Social Security Administration sets ahead of time. It is essentially a moving target. Whenever the client receives his or her Social Security disability or just retirement income, we are there to take it that same exact day. And then what happens is that our clients continue to keep their policies and don't have to worry as much about lapse issues now. So again, I'll give you the same example I used a moment ago. Let's say, I think it was last year this happened. The 3rd of July fell on a Sunday. The 4th of July was Monday. So if you you set up your draft numerically on the 3rd, you weren't drafting until the 5th, right? Because that was the holiday. Banks are closed on the weekends. Banks are closed on holidays. That means no drafts are done during those days, okay? So that meant our client got paid on Friday, and they had a huge weekend to do who never knows what they ever do with their money. Not pay their bills sometimes. And if you weren't there in line on Friday to grab it with a Social Security deposit arrangement, then you had to wait past Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then on Tuesday and hope that you're going to get it. And those agents who had set up Social Security deposit billing had probably experienced a much higher level of persistency than those that did. And the thing is, it's not just for the 3rd of the month. It's also for the 1st of the month, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Wednesday. The strategy, the main idea behind it is draft on the date that the client receives their money, not a day before and definitely not a day after. So one of my favorite companies in the business, Transamerica, was actually the creator of this particular innovation. I stand to say that this is probably the most creative innovation in the past 10 years. And I remember hearing through the grapevine that at least on large agency levels had significant persistency, quality of business increases over the span of about a year by 10%. And that's huge. So the takeaway here, guys, is please do Social Security deposit billing. Work with carriers, preferentially, that do Social Security deposit billing. Don't work with carriers that don't if you can at all help it. Thankfully now, flash forward to the second half of 2020 when this is filmed, probably 1/2 to 2/3 of all major final expense carriers do Social Security deposit billing. So it shouldn't be that hard to find a carrier. If you need a suggestion on some that do, just let me know and I'll be happy to mention it. One last thing in actually strategically using this that I think is important to think about ahead of time is what happens if the client how do you deal with having to tell the client a specific date that the money is going to come out? If you've sold insurance like I have to final expense prospects, sometimes they're afraid of overdrafts. They're afraid of not having the money there. And they want you to set it up for the 4th or 5th or something like this. So what we've changed in our strategy in collecting the billing information is we don't ask for permission to draft on a certain date. We just tell them, we're going to just draft your account after your premium comes in on whatever day it does. Okay, so if you said yours is the 3rd of the month, just know that the day your money's hitting your bank, ours will come shortly after, never before. That makes sense? That's essentially the script that we use. We don't ask for permission anymore. We don't open a box to letting our clients choose which dates that they're going to do, because then we just have to tell them we can't do it. Or you may be in a position where you feel pressure to transition to a carrier that doesn't do Social Security deposit billing, or use the same carrier but not assign Social Security deposit billing to it. And that's just going to result in worse persistency. So guys, just don't do it. You don't have to anymore. Just do Social Security deposit billing if they're receiving a Social Security check. It's easy. It makes life so much easier. Don't even ask for permission. Just explain to them this is how it works. If you don't like it, fine. This is just the way it is. It's the company's fault. That's always a nice thing to do, too, to just blame the company. It's not your decision. It's the way the companies work. Okay, so that is a really important lesson, a basic lesson, I would say. Fundamentally, you need to know how to use Social Security deposit billing. Makes a huge difference in persistency and quality of business. If you have any questions about Social Security deposit billing, if you'd like to list some companies that you prefer that do Social Security deposit billing, please feel free to list them below. If you have any other comments, you're welcome to leave those as well. Please like, subscribe, and share if you haven't. And if I can help you become a top producer, you can join my agency, my national agency. I recruit coast to coast. You can go to daviddufour.com to learn more how you can become a top producer in final expense, annuities, or Medicare Advantage. Thanks for listening.